Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I've been taking pictures of red squirrels at the beautiful Dingle Nature Reserve on Anglesey, Wales. And I want you to stick around to see my decision making process when editing these pictures in Photoshop and Lightroom. So we did, obviously had a little walk around the dingle, which was fantastic, and managed to set up the cameras to get some video of these lovely squirrels, as well as take some pictures. So it was a fantastic trip, and if you're in Wales, if you're in Anglesey or on Anglesey, make sure you head over to the dingle for red squirrels and show them off, show the world how important they are, because they are a fantastic species. Okay, here we are back in the studio. So on the day we got some lovely shots of the red squirrels alongside my friend Adam Thomas, who actually showed me the various spots, the best spots to try and take pictures of them. We got some lovely pictures of the squirrels, although we were in the middle of woodland and the day was very dull. Squirrels being squirrels, they're going to be in woodland, and it means that you get a lot of dappled light. So you don't necessarily get a lot of direct light. You get a little bit here, a little bit there, which means you're playing with shadows, highlights all the time. They're moving really quickly, so you've got to play around with your settings as well. As you can see, if I jump into this picture, this is the raw image straight out of the camera, and you can see up here that I've got ISO 5000, and on this particular occasion these are the rest of the settings at 1/400th of a second. The problem is that some were perched, not moving, preening, cleaning themselves, some are running around, and to be honest, with a red squirrel you just have to get whatever photo you can get on the day. You may not have that long with them. We didn't have a lot of light. The end of the day was coming as well, so we were getting to sort of 3-4 o'clock. The light was really dropping. So we got whatever pictures we got. With that in mind, with that ISO, and not quite as fast a shutter speed as I wanted to get either with these, my detail is less and the grain is quite a lot. So our editing decisions when it comes to this kind of image is, do we want a close-up shot? Do we want a wide environmental shot? How is it best to show this squirrel in its environment? And with this in mind, we could go into our crop here and think, well, Instagram, we want to post on Instagram, we want it the best we can get it. That means a 4:5 crop, which is kind of fine, but slightly less interesting, slightly too close to the subject for this particular shot, and it doesn't tell the story I want to tell. So actually, with that in mind, what I really want to do is maybe go to something like a 5:7 crop, but in landscape. Here we are, we've got this landscape crop. With the crop, we want to play with the rule of thirds, as it were, so the first, second and third sections of our image. Now our subject wants to be somewhere in the crosshairs of the left-hand third and the middle third, from my opinion, to really help us with this leading line of this branch, and also that our subject's kind of in a hero position in the top left-hand corner. I actually want it to be slightly higher up personally, so I'm just going to play around with my crop ever so slightly and kind of bring it roughly about there. I want to give enough room on the tail so it doesn't look like it's really getting too close to that edge, and I want to make sure our subject's kind of right in that eye line with that lovely leading line down with this branch. And that's sort of there or thereabouts where I would stick to it. I tend to go in and out a bit, so I might actually just pop that down a little bit there, come back out. Yeah, I'm happy with that now. So first thing I do is crop. That's my first decision made. I'm telling the story of that on the day this squirrel ran up and down this branch for a few minutes while we were there, collecting, going about his business, super busy, super quick. And that's what it was doing. So that's the story I want to tell. Second thing I want to do is sort out this noise a little bit. I don't want to make it like an oil painting and go crazy with it, but I'm going to use the denoise here in Lightroom. And generally I stick, knowing my own settings, my own photography and how I like it to look personally, I don't go above 50% generally in this. Once I've done that, I think the image is almost uneditable. It doesn't look that great for me. These are all personal choices, remember, so you've just got to do what's best for you and what you like the most. You can play around with this little screen here, and it will just give you a preview of the wherever you want it to be. You can zoom out and zoom in on your subject or your background or wherever you want to go. So I'm not going to go much past. You can see up here we've got all this grain. We haven't got a lot of detail here. I'm not going to go much past around about 35, 36, 37-ish percent. I'm going to click enhance and just wait for that to do its thing. Luckily with YouTube, I can just jump straight to the result. That actually took a lot longer than it should have done. Okay, so now that you can see it's done its thing and you can see it's still got the grain, I don't mind that. I don't mind some grain anyway. Not every image is going to be absolutely super smooth. And when I zoom out, you can see this background is nice and smooth anyway from this distance. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my masking here. And I'm just going to click on select subject and just let the computer do its thing. That's absolutely fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into the mask. I'm actually going to click subtract here, and with a brush I'm just going to brush out the mask in these other areas that it's sort of found, roughly, not going too close to the, I can get a bit of this branch, that's absolutely fine. But what I want to do here with this mask highlighted, I just want to bring the highlights down of the squirrel, which enables me to bring the shadows up and the contrast up a little bit without blowing out all the details. If you can bring those highlights down, then you can pop those, the exposure and so on up, and you don't lose those details, which is really key. I'm also, while I've got him or her, I'm not sure how you tell the difference between a squirrel male or female, I'm actually going to up the saturation of the squirrel as well. Again, on the day versus the raw shot, on the day the colours were way more vibrant to my eyes than in the raw shot itself. And so I'm going to try and compensate by what I remember on the day, bringing those details and those colours out. And there you have it. Now I want to play with the background a little bit. We've got quite a lot of white, bright backlight coming here. So I'm going to create a new mask and I'm going to select background. And that's going to do roughly, yeah, a decent job. Again, what I might do with this mask here is just subtract again, get my brush, and just so it doesn't affect this branch too much when I play around with it. Now remember, light does permeate does permeate through and onto different subjects when you're in, particularly in woodland, because you've got different beams of light coming from different parts behind you or to your sides. So don't worry too much. I just want to make sure that it doesn't affect that whole branch. I'm now going to just reduce the highlights in that background, you can see, just so they're not blown out. And then it enables or helps our subject to be the hero. So we're going to bring those right down there. And now our subject is starting to pop a little bit more, which is really what we want. Now with light in mind, I'm going to go to another mask here. I'm going to add a linear gradient, and I'm going to bring light from right to left down onto my subject. I'm going to play around with the angle a bit here as well, and I'm going to make it really gradiated, really deep gradient, gradiated light, so it is nice and smooth. I'm going to up the exposure from right to left a little bit, and then I'm going to add a little bit of warmth as well. But I'm also going to bring the highlights down a bit so it doesn't overblow it too much. And that's just, again, telling a little bit of story, having that light come bathing. It was the end of the day, the sun was setting, and giving that kind of storytelling feel again. With the same thing in mind, I want to compensate on the left-hand side of my picture as well. So I'm going to get another linear gradient and come up from the bottom. And again, I'm just going to add a bit of warmth so that the colour tones kind of match each other. And then I can either bring that up as well if I want, or bring it down to, again, try and help with that leading line and leading the eye up to our subject. like so. Now what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to go and have a look. So I've got my squirrel here. I'm actually going to play around with the sharpening. So I'm going to click on Option on my Mac, and I'm going to slide this mask along, and everything in white is going to be sharp. So I only want to get the main details here like so. And I know with my own style and my own type of editing that I'm just literally going to tap, tap, tap like that, just to give myself a little bit of detail. And always remember, when you zoom back out, a bit like an artist, that's when you're looking at your overall shot. Don't worry too much about the detail when you're in there. Those little changes you make when you're in there will show when you zoom back like this, and you now get this beautiful picture. Now the final thing I'm going to do in Lightroom at this stage, I'm going to reduce the highlights in the whole image a little bit, just to taste. And then I'm going to up the exposure slightly as well. There we go. So that's my image as it is, and I'm happy with that now. I'm now going to export that out, and I tend to export as a TIFF file, 450 pixels per inch. That's what I do. You can do whatever you like to do. There's a lot of YouTube videos on exporting and importing out of Photoshop, out of Lightroom, into Instagram, all those kind of things. It's too much for me. Hi guys, just a really quick one for you. If you're enjoying this video, you might be interested in my personalised editing workshops that I do online. These are for Photoshop and Lightroom, where you send me your raw pictures and a few notes. I then edit them, go through my process, send the video back, and you can rewatch that whenever you want. For more information, go to pondandperchwildlife.co.uk or head over to Instagram at spaceman.pics and drop me a DM. Now back to the video. Okay, now we are in Photoshop. And the main thing I want to do in Photoshop is dodge and burn, so create some details, and I'm just going to get rid of some distractions that I don't particularly like. So I'm going to use AI to do that. A lot of people don't like the word AI. However, I use it sometimes if I want to get rid of distractions. I don't like this little bit down here. For me, it doesn't really make any difference. Some people will say you're taking a bit away from the photo on the day. It's a personal choice. You do what you want to do. I'm going to click on generative fill. I'm not going to write anything in. I'm just going to click generate and just let that do its thing for 10 or 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. And there you have it. Absolutely fine for me. And I'm just going to merge those layers together or flatten the image, and it's gone. I haven't affected anything that I've done in the main image. You know, again, it's up to you. And the other thing I don't like is just this little leaf here that's come through as well. Again, going to use the same thing, generative fill, click on generate, and there you go. It gives you different choices, but I'm more than happy with what it's done for me there. So there we go. So there's my image as it is. I'm really happy with how that's turning out so far. Now I'm just going to play with the detail and the dodge and the burn and just add a little bit of detail here and there that I've lost in having to shoot with the settings I shot. Again, if you're a purist and you really want to just show what you shot on the day, go for it. I like to play around with the details myself, and I use these sections over here, the dodge and the burn tools, lighten and darken, essentially. So with the burn tool, you're going to go up to this range, and up here you're going to keep a soft brush, so 0% hardness, and then play around with whatever size, depending on what detail you're going to play with. I'm going to bring this right down, and then you've got to pick whether it's a shadow, mid-tone or highlight. Pretty simple. Keep your exposure low. And I'm just going to add a little bit of detail to this mouth section here, so that when I zoom back out, it shows that mouth again where I've lost it. I'm also going to go to my shadows. I'm going to up the brush a bit, and I'm just going to deepen the shadows in that ear and up onto the left hand side of that ear, and you can see as I do that and zoom out that the detail then becomes apparent. It's pretty simple as you go. So playing with those details, dodge and burn, can really make your image sort of pop. So if I go to dodge now, and bearing in mind the light I added from right down to left, Some of these things would potentially have a little bit more light in them than others. So now with midtones, my dodge tool, which is lightening, and it's not too high exposure, I'm just going to overexpose some of these details here and there, just to increase the contrast between shadows and highlights. And that's where you get that sort of high dynamic range, clarity, whatever you want to call it, 3D look and feel to your pictures. And when you zoom back out, you start to get that kind of really deep depth in your images, and the detail starts to shine through as well. And it really can make for an interesting image. Once you've done that, you've got to play around with the light and colour and other things that you want to do, but my decision making in this image is exactly what I've shown you. So play around with the composition, think about the story you want to tell, then play around with denoise, sharpen, and those lovely details in your subject to make them the star of the show. And that's about it. Let me show you the final image. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this, click on the like, drop me a comment, and of course subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.